Are the actions of your adult children keeping you up at night, causing you pain, making you cry? It just might be time to divorce or call it quits on your adult children. Let's talk about that today on Life Starring Deb. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Life Starring Deb. Again, I thank you all for tuning in every week, for keeping me encouraged by liking my videos, sharing them, subscribing, and talking about it with others. It really does make me feel good, and it makes me feel like I am making a difference and I am definitely helping out in situations. So I appreciate you. Please keep coming back. Today's episode, I have to tell you, it is a heavy one. Usually, the episodes that I bring you are episodes of things that I deal with or have dealt with or have worked through, um, knowledge of certain topics. Today is not that episode. I can tell you right off the top that the thought of divorcing or calling it quits with my adult children is not something that I ever feel like I would want to deal with. And I really don't know how I would handle it if one of my children that are now adults decided that they didn't want to speak to me anymore, or they disowned me, or they washed their hands of me, or whatever. I don't know how I would handle that. But I would have to find a way. I would have to find a way to move forward, even in the pain, even in the grief of it. I would have to find a way. So that is what I'm going to share with you today. Not from experience, because I haven't experienced this, but just thinking out loud and talking it through. I would try to give you some tools and some information to help you if this is what's going on in your life right now. So let's just jump right into this. So, the first thing that I want to share with you is that yes, these are our babies. And no matter how old they get, they will always be our babies. However, they are now grown. So we cannot deal with them the same way that we dealt with them when they were growing up. We can't point the finger and tell them, you need to be, and why didn't you? You can't deal with your adult children that way because they are adults. And as much as we don't want them to make mistakes, we don't want them to make the same mistakes that we made. We want to shelter them and stand in the division and be a roadblock, a hurdle that they don't have to jump over by offering advice on certain situations. We want to fix it. A lot of times we just want to fix it. And more often than not, we don't even want it broke. So we try to intervene before they get to that point. The thing that we have to remember is, though, they don't always want our advice. They don't always want to share with us what is going on in their life. They have more resources available to them than we ever did. I mean, they can find answers to questions faster than we can give it to them. And a lot of times they do that because they want to be an adult and they don't want us to interfere. And sometimes our opinion is the deal breaker. It's the thing that pushes them over the top, because sometimes we don't know when to stop. We don't know how to offer advice and then throw our hands up and let them either take that advice and run with it or do something different. And if they do something different, then we can't be mad about that. We have to allow, as hard as it is, we cannot allow them to make us angry because they didn't do something that we wanted them to do, or that we thought they should do, or they didn't make a decision that we knew was better for them, or whatever. There's so many different scenarios about why our adult children build up resentments towards us, to the point sometimes that they don't even want to talk to us. Oftentimes, also, our adult children will start to look at their lives, and they will build resentments up for us because they're not as far along as they thought they would be at this stage of the game. They want to blame us for not pushing them harder, for not making them stay in school, for not intercepting a bad business deal, or not co-signing for them, or whatever the case may be. They want to build resentments towards us, and that causes them to look at us differently, not speak to us, not want to have anything to do with us. And we can't allow that to happen, because they have to realize that a lot of us, most of us, did the best that we could with what we had. Because they were little, a lot of times when we were struggling, or we were in the trenches, or we really didn't have it, that's not something that we talked to them about, because they were kids. But as they grow up and they look back on their life, and they wonder, well, why didn't I get to do this, or why didn't I get to do that, and why were you always gone, and why was I always with grandma, and grandma was always there. And then they start to feel like, you did something wrong, because sometimes we had kids at a young age, in our 20s, early 20s. And yes, that is the time that we were partying and we were hanging out. And we did rely on our parents to babysit, to watch the kids, so we could be 20, 21, 22, however we are in our early 20s. But the kids don't remember that. They don't know anything about that. They just know that grandma was around and you weren't. But then they also don't know that when grandma was in her 20s or whatever it was her mama and daddy that probably helped, the grandmother. But of course, this is information that we don't share. We don't have to share. But what I'm saying is, it's things like that that build resentments up in our children. And once they get to be adults, they lash out at us. They stop speaking. They're angry because they are not further along than they think that they should be. But at some point, these grown children have got to stop blaming the parent for what they didn't have and start to move in a direction that they want their life to go as a grown adult. So how do we know if we're in trouble with our kid? Other than the fact that they're not calling us anymore, or they sent a bad letter, or they just said, I don't want to talk to you. There are other signs that will let you know that you need to pull back. One of those signs is this: when their world starts to affect you negatively, when their world starts to affect you negatively, emotionally and physically. You're crying all the time, you're laying around, you're thinking. When those things start to happen to you because of choices that they're making, it might be time to pull back the reins. When you cannot possess their choices in a healthy way. When you cannot process their choices in a healthy way, when you start to overeat, you might start drinking, you might be sleeping on the job or not going to work at all because you're constantly thinking about what your adult child is doing or not doing. You are processing their choices in a negative way. When that happens, it might be time to back up. When you are obsessing about what they're doing, going to their Instagram, going to their Facebook, going through their emails, and you're calling their friends and finding out where were they, what are they doing, looking at their pictures, analyzing who they're with, and that's too much. You can't handle it. And then you call them on it, and then they start to get angry with you, like, why are you checking my pages? Why are you calling my friends? And they get mad. See, you cannot adult them that way. Again, you have got to allow them to live their life, even if you think it's destructive, because they're doing something different than what you would do or that you have done. You have got to trust that they are going to eventually make the right decisions, even though they are going to make mistakes, just like we did. Just like we did. So what do? What do you do when you've done all that you can do? The first thing that you have to do is identify how it affects your life. You've got to look at it head on and identify how their choices are affecting your life. Then you have got to change your focus. Change your focus from negativity to positively. You cannot obsess over what they are doing. You've got to change your focus. And 3, you have to do something for yourself every single day. You have got to find things to occupy your time. If you are retired, then you need to start a hobby or join a group or have something on your schedule that you can do that will take your mind off of what your adult children are doing and help you to concentrate and focus on you. Because if you stress too much about the behaviors or the choices of your adult children, it can kill you. Stress can kill you. And everything that is affecting you in a negative way is going to weigh on your mental, your physical, and your health. It will come out in other areas of your life. You also have got to give it time. Once you have reached out to your adult child and you have let them know that I miss you, we need to talk, what's going on, whatever the case may be, give it time to work. Now, that doesn't mean when I say divorce them or call it quits, I mean divorcing and calling it quits from the obsession of it. But that doesn't mean that you're going to stop loving them. You have to love them through it all anyway. This was not an easy episode for me to bring because there's pain in this, a pain that I don't understand, a pain that I hope that I never have to go through. But I know there are those of you that you are dealing with this. If it gets to the point that it is too much for you and you find yourself becoming depressed or some of the other symptoms that I mentioned in this episode, not eating, overeating, drinking, anything like that, seek out help. Talk to your medical professional, get some resources, talk to someone who specializes in this area because we need you to be okay. No matter what, no matter if you reconcile or if you never reconcile, we need you to be okay. And there are people out there that can help you to navigate through this journey of your life that is difficult. But you don't have to do it alone. So that is today's episode. I hope that this information at least started you to thinking about your life and thinking about changes that you might have to make and adjustments that you might have to make. Of course, this is an ongoing episode. Hopefully, it will start conversations that you might have with your close friends and family to help you to get to the other side of it. So thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, until we meet again, be good to you. Take care.